Hello.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I am so happy to be back. This is our, I guess, well, in certain sense, the 11th episode, but this is also Design Lounge second season. So excited to be back. We've been sort of down under for a little bit, but now we've come back with our first episode. As you know, it's called Positive Design, and I've got such amazing speakers lined up for you. You'll have fun listening to them and hopefully learn something. So before I begin, a couple of housekeeping things. Design Lounge, as you know, is a collaboration between Pearl Academy, the ADI, which is Association of Designers of India, and co-curated by our team at Pearl Academy and Aditi Dhar, who is an accessory designer and an entrepreneur. We also have, let me actually introduce myself before we go ahead. So my name, of course, is Srishti Bajaj, and I'm the head of department for product design at Pearl Academy. And I'm going to be your host for today's session. And let me also mention in the chat box, see the chat box, you'll see some interesting handles. The Facebook page that we have for Pearl Academy, the Facebook page for ADI, you must check them out. They're really a consortium of industry people from India, design people from India. So very important to follow them. And we also have this year our Instagram handle. We've started something called Design Lounge _PA. So you can check that out on Instagram if you'd like to follow us. And if you want to write to us, please write to designloungeindia@gmail.com. And very quickly, let's go to our speakers. Hi, Alipta, can we have you on screen, please?
Hey, how are you?
Hi, Alipta. Welcome to the very first episode of Student Season 2 of Design Lounge. I'm so happy to have you here. So, guys, let me very quickly introduce and give you a background to Alipta. So,
Yes,
he's
thank
an
you.
amazing and accomplished UX professional. He's worked in the industry for about 20 years, and he's been designing intuitive and engaging experiences across domains. his research, and he's written a lot of research papers, by the way. So if you go online and search for Alipta Ballav, you'll find lots and lots of papers. But his research focuses on leveraging this machine learning to build predictive models in designing better UX. And he's currently leading and managing user experience and design team at Cerner Corporation in Bangalore, building next generation of healthcare IT solutions. So a big warm welcome to Alipto. Thank you for being with us today. You're welcome to say hello to our audiences while we bring out our second guest,
Yes,
Mritunjay.
thank you
Hi.
so much.
Hi,
So,
So
Srishti.
glad to be here.
Hi.
so our second very interesting speaker is, well, in his past life, he was a knitwear designer, which is what we discovered. And we went to the same college, in fact, at NIFT, maybe a few years apart though. But you've pivoted to HCI, and he's currently pursuing his PhD from IIT Kanpur in design cognition. You've also authored several research papers, and you're deeply interested in exploring cognitive psychology, design cognition, creative cognition, experience design, and you worked on a wide-ranging products from Nokia and Samsung and Wipro and the UP government as well. So welcome, Mritunjay.
Thank you. Thank you, Srishti. It's indeed a pleasure to be here and an honor.
I think both our speakers are exactly what we needed for this episode of Positive Design. And before we actually get into what positive design is, we want the audiences to kind of just to understand where they're at in their minds. We'd ask a quick poll question from all of you. Predika, can we have the first poll question? Okay. What is positive design, guys? This is for the audience. Do you think it is having positive thoughts while you design? Is that what positive design is? Is it generating positive emotions for your users? Or is it measuring positives of your design? So three very quick questions or options actually. So I would like all of you guys to answer that poll so that we get a sense of where you guys are coming from. It'll also help us see, what we can deconstruct even further for you during our talk. So Alipto and Mritunjay, while people answer the poll question, I think positive design is, of course, reflected in your work. And we'll get into your work all the time, but in your life as well. Okay, is that something you follow as a personal philosophy as well? Who'd like to go first? It's an open question.
Not intentionally right now. Like you make products, of course, for it's not like positive design did not exist earlier. It used to exist, but intentional thought was not given. So I think when I design personally a product, I keep my users in mind and also how that product will ultimately benefit them. So benefit word in itself is a positive word, and I think this is how I go ahead. But since positive design field is emerging, I think it's time for us to focus dedicatedly make products which can ultimately help people towards well-being. Yeah.
Alipto,
Yeah,
I
so
mean, from a previous conversation, I know that this is something you closely believe in. This is something you follow in your personal life, and I'm sure.
absolutely. So I think right now being positive is a need of the hour because we are currently in a pandemic situation, and then we still don't know what lies in the future for all of us, right? So I believe being positive, stay positive, all really all constitutes towards that positiveness towards everything. It's just not about design your life, your creating relationships with people. So everything is all about being positive now. So I guess that that thought or that probably comes to your design process. Now, how do you add positivity in your design? How do you make your team feels positive about everything what they do? So that's about being positive in life, I would say. It's just about just not about design or something like that, but being positive in your life.
I think I absolutely resonate with you, especially with COVID-19. I think we're all looking for positive stories. We're all looking for
Yeah.
positivity. I think much harder than we did earlier. So hopefully that's a good change that we'll see. So let's go back to our poll. Do we have our answers, Prerika? Let's see what the audiences have responded with. All right. So there we go. That's pretty impressive, guys. 83% say generating positive emotions for your user.
The user.
That's amazing. I think we have a very well aligned audience, if I can call it.
Nice.
Yeah. Exactly.
Measuring the positives of your design is another 17%. So I think that's an important recognizable intention also. The fact that you want to measure how much positivity you've generated. And guys, throughout this conversation, I think you'll see both these well, actually not both these three, but all three of these themes coming back to us. So really, what are we going to do today? We as designers, we always think of ourselves as people who are trying to make life better. We make spaces, products, services to look better, to feel better, build better, and function better. Which also sometimes means it costs better. But basically, we're trying to design for general well-being. So it's natural that we try to get better at it. And I guess positive design is a framework in some sense to help us design with the explicit intention. And I'd like to underline that fact. It's the explicit intention to create subjective well-being. And through the two talks from the two speakers, you will see how they've kind of, in their own work and in their own research, have deconstructed positive design. Let's begin looking at that, and let's invite Alipta for the first presentation. Alipta, please share your screen and take us through your idea of positive design.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for that. Let me quickly share my screen now.
It's good. It's good. That's good.
Can you see?
Yes, visible. Thank you.
Great. So hi there, all of you. I think let me start then. Okay, so I would say simplicity leads to so much of happiness in life, right? I mean, my grandmother or my parents sometimes get lost in those set of remote buttons, and then how do I fix for them? It's very simple, man. I normally cover them with a piece of paper. Those non-frequent buttons which are not used regularly, I just cover them with a piece of paper, and that's so simple, right? So my name is Alipta Ballav, and this is me. Since childhood, I had this wish that I want to become a painter, but accidentally I got into IT. So after passing my high school, I joined a college to study commerce. Actually, I was being pushed by my parents to do that, but I then left it after 2 years to chase my dream to become a painter. And this was a picture which I took from my art college days, which is there still with me. And then I got entered into IT at a very early age of 23. I got my first job at 23, and then this was a gang which got formed in my first company, and they're still with me. I chat with them in Facebook, Twitter, and whenever I visit my native, I kind of mingle with them a lot. So these are some of the logos I worked with. I was a part of Wipro for some time, Harman, Connected Services, Logica, CMG. I was also part of Stanford University for some research projects. And then these are some of the roles I've played. Graphic designer, senior web developer. The one which is currently highlighted in red, that's the current role I'm playing actually in my current company. And at the moment, I'm landed in Cerner. So Cerner is basically a healthcare IT company headquartered in Kansas City, US. So we are trying to modernize our entire suite of products, and I head the India design team. So guys, that was my journey, and that's me actually, But then over the years, I feel if I get a chance to redesign my life, which one attribute I would add to it? Definitely, I would add happiness. And this is me actually. I love being the beaches sometimes. So I've been to multiple beaches actually, and this is one of the photographs. So I was jumping out of the water. So this is how I add positivity to my life. So you said micro factors. It has a huge impact on collective happiness of people, including music, art, sports, togetherness, celebration, everything. So listen, look at this picture. You're sharing an ice cream together, so it's fun for them, right? Even a painting, it's a form of self-expression for you, right? It gives you so much of happiness, right? So there are some core instincts of happiness, right? So Walt Disney's philosophy. This is Walt Disney. His philosophy is feel safe, right? So happiness is all about feeling safe. Now, that's why all the Disney parks were designed to make you feel safe. Now, if you are buying insurance, LIC, let's say, or any insurance, you can feel secured about your life, right? It gives you a peace of mind, right? And then if you are affiliated with any governing body or any renowned university, it gives a very satisfying experience, right? You feel affiliated. So I think over the years, UX has emerged rapidly in the field of HCI, but I guess it's also time to move from a task-oriented approach to emotional aspects, add those emotional aspects to our products. So you know that emotions are the soul of a product, right? I'd say my dad never changed his wristwatch his entire life because it was a marriage gift for him, and he continued to wear that until he died. So, he was attached to that project. So some products have a lasting value and engagement for users, and it makes them feel in a particular way, right? Now, this is an experience pyramid which talks about how you actually go up to the ladder of the experience. So it starts with the basic functional experience. Let me give you a quick example here. Imagine a light switch. Light switch gives you a very functional experience, right? It works without bugs, it works consistently, and it's easy to use, but it is not pleasurable to use, right? It is not fun to use. So I think over the time, uh, we designers should make our products reach to that top of the ladder. Again, not every product can sit on the top of that pyramid. Only few can reach. But then we also have to see what products can reach and what cannot. So I think let's look some of the core attributes or product attributes which could help us decide which products can actually sit on the top and which cannot, right? Okay, so this is simple Caesar, right? What do you do with Caesar, right? You can cut paper, cardboard, cloth, rope, anything, right? Sometimes I actually use Caesar to cut chilies sometimes, and Caesar actually it fulfills a very tangible goal for you, right? But it does not provide a very engaging experience. It does not provide any very emotional experience for you. So it is a pragmatic attribute. You have that in your product. But again, if you talk about hedonic attributes, let's say this flowers, it's a great showpiece at your home, and that object is something which can fulfill an intangible need, right? And it creates an aesthetic emotions which is joyful, right? And similarly, idiomonic attributes, which constitutes by creating a meaningful goal for you, object that contributes to a meaningful goal. Let's say you're buying a wedding ring, right? Marriage is a life-changing event for you, right? And then it gives you that comfort, enjoyment, pleasure, everything, right? So that's about these three product attributes I'm going to talk about. But then, which product has all of these three attributes together? Products which actually fall on that sweet spot, this spot where you can say this product can actually make you feel positive or make you feel happy. So I'd say standing in 2020, I would say a phone can be one product which can really have all these three attributes together, right? Phone, it can take digital photos, it can really suit your identity, right? Between an iPhone or a Samsung phone, whatever, because the design is very minimal in nature, right? And it can also document in important social event, right? Which can really fulfill a very tangible, meaningful memory for you, right? So let's move towards a positive design framework now. I'm going to talk about PERMA model. Martin Seligman, one of the founders of positive psychology, developed the 5 core elements of psychological well-being. And so this is approach towards positive design. So there are 5 things: positive emotion, engagement, relationships, healing, and accomplishment. I'll talk about it a bit. It is more than smiling. It is the ability to remain optimistic about your life. So let's say you are working out every day to reduce your body fat, right? So every time you get to see your weight is getting reduced, you feel great about it, right? And similarly, every time a baby grow up and we keep on checking their weights, right? And as a parent, you feel great. Okay, my baby is growing. So I think as a designer, bringing those positive emotions out of a product, adding attributes like optimism, pleasure, enjoyment can definitely make you feel positive about the product. The second is about engagement. Engagement is about an experience of doing an activity or the task, or it just for the sake of doing it, to experience that moment, right? So like it can be playing an instrument, reading a book, it can be anything. I mean, painting or even watching a movie, right? So the focus for a designer is to build that immersive experience. So in a movie theater, the experience you get is entirely different than watching a movie at home, right? So at home there could be multiple distractions for you. You can get a phone call, there could be a power outage, sometimes someone knocking at the door, and these days you always get big basket deliveries, right? But if you go to theater, it's a very different experience, right? You get to see large screen, surround sound system, you're munching popcorn, and that experience is unmatched, right? So I think as a designer, you must engage users and offer them that immersive experience to build engagement with your products. Relationships, we're all social animals, we need to connect and create bonds. So I'll give it a quick example here. Banks, you actually create relationship with banks, right? Now, I have seen my mom. She has never changed a bank in her entire life. She has only one bank account, and she's one of the oldest customer in that bank. And probably she has liked the service, or probably she was able to build a trust over that bank, right? So relationship is also about building that trust with your products. So again, I live in a different city for work, but whenever I go to native, I normally go to that same barber shop for haircut, because somehow I feel emotionally connected with that person who does my haircut, right? So when it comes to digital products, I think we hardly stick to one product. We keep hopping from one product to another. But I guess as a designer, our job is to build those relationships with our products so that we kind of connect with them or we stick to them forever. The next one is about meaning, activities that have a purpose. I think in this slide I can talk about design thinker Tristan Harris offers a very thoughtful new ideas for technology that creates a more meaningful experiences on interactions. So he started a movement called Time Well Spent, where he stressed upon what does the future of technology look like when you're designing for the deepest human values. So can technology create positive contributions towards your life, or can a simple phone can help you do activities that has a purpose, right? So let's say, for an example, if you're trying to go from point A to point B, and so you have options to choose multiple things, right? You can probably take a bus, you can probably take a car, you can even walk. And if you choose the option to walk, you can so while walking you can really listen to some webinars or some kind of videos which can really make you learn any new skill, right? Or you can really listen to a song too that can really mend your mind, right? So activities that has a purpose. The last one is accomplishment. It can be getting a degree, receiving an honor award, or it can be cracking your board exams, anything, right? Again, the sense of accomplishment, I would say, vary from person to person. For some it could be having lots of money, success, fame, and for some it could be gaining knowledge, right? So I think I actually felt accomplished a lot when I got graduated from my design school. That was way back in 2000, but I really felt accomplished. I'm a design graduate now. Coming to a digital product, I would say Fitbit is one product we can probably make you feel accomplished every day. And also there's virtual collaboration softwares also make you feel accomplished, because my kids often get these online classes every day, and she feel accomplished every day through this products, right? So that's about it for my presentation. But coming back to the last slide, where I'm going to talk about the positive side of me. I manage a very young and talented design team in my organization. Now, I would say to be in sync with them, I have started to feel really young and energetic these days. And I am I've learned to enjoy my life. I'm enjoying those moments which are coming to me, and I'm probably accepting them how it is coming to me. And also, I'm feeling like I'm doing a very meaningful work these days, because during this lockdown, that one thought which came to my mind is also about giving back to the design communities, right? Which has allowed me to join multiple design platform, design communities, and I've been mentoring designers these days. So in a way, I'm giving back to the society, to the design society, I would say, and really I'm doing meaningful work. So that those are some of the positive sides of me. I was trying to connect back how positive design actually helped me out in my career, or being a better human being every day. I think that's about it. Thank you so much. I think we can discuss more about it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Alipta. It's really interesting to see the journey of somebody who's, of course, there is the design work that you do, but to be able to have a larger, more meaningful vision for yourself and your work. I think that's very important and very, I think, urgently needed. Designers over the past, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but we've been very belligerent. There has been rampant consumerism because of the kind of things we've created in the past. And although they were designed in some way to give us pleasure, when you bought something, a new device, or you bought a new piece of furniture, or you created a new space for yourself, or any of the above, there was always an intent to make people happy, but that's also led to a certain level of wastefulness. So when we talk about long-term positivity, perhaps sustainability is one of the crucial factors that I would urge all designers to look at. But coming back to what you said about building relationships, for me also, as a designer, as a product designer, I've always wondered, and I've always tried, that if you're working with an inanimate object, products, they don't live, right, in a certain sense. How do you create that emotional connect with the user? It's something that's helped me progress my work over the years, but it's also something that is still fairly elusive. Like, how do you really, really ensure that your user is feeling that emotional connect or feeling happiness? So my first question to you is that, how do you measure in a quantifiable term some of these intangibles like positive emotion and meaning? How do you actually measure them?
Yeah. That's a great question, Srishti. So I would say, emotions are, there's no shortcut to measure emotions. So I think we are at a very early stage of research. So emotions are subjective, behavioral, then physiological, and there's no proven method to quantify them. But yes, there are a few ways to tackle it. Now, if you look at subjective emotions, there's something called PANAS. You call positive and negative affect schedule, right? Which is a set of questions which you give to the end users so that they can fill it up and give it back to us. That's about subjective emotions. Now, if you look at behavioral emotion, then there's something called facial action coding system. You kind of understand their facial expressions, right? And then that would probably get you to what you actually need to, if you want to quantify emotions. Now, if you talk about physiological emotion, then you can probably use electrode sensors to detect heartbeats and then different respirations pattern, right? So that's about it. I think over the years, facial expressions probably have gained a lot of popularity, and then Probably through facial expressions, you can really try to gauge a bit of emotional attachment towards your product. But again, I would say there's a lot of research and work to be done in this field, and there's no one framework which can actually quantify emotion still. So yeah, that's probably would be my response to your question.
Thank you for that, Alipta. I think it's great that there are fields in design that still need more research. So all the students out there who are listening in, this could be an interesting path for you to take your work ahead. I would like to ask Prerika to bring out our second poll question, and it's actually an important question because as designers, we always, like I mentioned earlier, strive to make things better. We strive to do it. We may not always achieve it. So let's bring the second poll question out, Prerika. So this is for all the audience members, and it's really for you to reflect on what has been your experience. So which of the following statements about design is closest to the reality, your reality and your design work in your experience? So is it that design is an empathetic profession, so positive impact and well-being is fundamental? Or do you feel that it is about well-being, design is about well-being, but does not always deliver impact for users? Or is it that it often lacks attributes, any attributes of positive design and well-being? Or that design is essentially about problem solving regardless of positive impact or well-being? So please mention select actually which of these holds true for you. So while everybody answers this question, Alipta, I have another one for you. You work in healthcare, which is a fairly complex field. I'm assuming that you deal with a lot of complex situations and extremely sensitive criteria when you're working with in the healthcare sector. What is often the toughest design ask for you? And what is the biggest struggle, I guess, when it comes to applying positive design seamlessly and consistently in a field like healthcare design?
Yeah, that's a good question again. So, Srishti, one thing I would say, healthcare as a domain or as an industry, it's a very stressful environment. People like nurses and physicians and even the patients, they are all stressed out, right? It's a very stressful environment, right? Now, physicians, nurses, they are all busy running for data.
Okay.
They are all busy for running for, and then how as a designer we can turn this environment for better? Can you actually bring that smile back to their face to these end users, or can you make them happy with our products? Uh, Possibly, I don't know. There's still again research going on in this area. In fact, in my own company, we are trying to build some kind of a framework which can really get you to that level of happiness. But what we're trying is we can probably reduce the stress level of this patients or this hospital staff or this nurses or the physicians by making interfaces intuitive in nature, and then giving the information what they would need at that point of time. And then also what they're doing are also partnering with AI and algorithms so that the interface can really predict what would be the future outcome for a particular patient, and that can probably help the doctors decide in advance, like what is the perfect medication plan I would have for this particular patient, right? And they can decide things early. So so if I can probably take an example here, recently we conducted a study where they're saying that whenever you're going to a doctor, doctors are always busy with the systems. They don't have the time to listen to you. Now, can AI get involved here? Can AI actually record all the conversation what you have between the doctor and the patient, and then really, analyze this entire conversation and give you some output? Okay, this particular patient might have this this kind of disease or some kind of problem, and then what is the medication you prefer for this kind of disease or this kind of symptoms? So we are all, getting to that level. We are still early in that, but hopefully sometime in the future we will really attain that state.
Fingers crossed. It does seem like this is a very, very important space for future research and for designers to really
Absolutely.
investigate what can be truly positive in some sense. I want to move to Mritunjay. Hi, Mritunjay. You've been listening to Alipta. Before we start your presentation, I wanted to bring Peter Desmet to the picture. Peter Desmet, of course, wrote the seminal articles, research paper on positive design.
Yes.
But in that, he also talks about flourishing.
Yeah.
It's an important aspect of positive design. So could you decipher that for our audience? What is flourishing and how is it connected to positive design?
Flourishing is basically interchangeably used with well-being. And well-being and flourishing, they both mean the same thing, where it's a kind of a system which encompasses many elements. It's not only positive emotions, or it's not only motivations and engagements. There are a lot of other factors which goes into play, like competence, connectedness, better relationships, other things. So subjective well-being, objective well-being. So these all factors contributes to a single process. So again, what we consider well-being and flourishing is as a state that we are happy, or we are leading a good life. But instead, it's not a state. I would consider them as a process. It keeps happening. So you will go through various ups and downs, and then you will achieve a particular state, which is happiness. So for me, I think Peter Desmet has proposed positive design framework, which I think Alipta already mentioned in his presentation, where he emphasizes that you should specifically design for positive emotions. You should design for virtues, and so on and so forth. So yeah, flourishing is again a bigger concept, and there is no common consensus to it as to what flourishing means. Different people have different perspectives from different disciplines, from philosophy to positive psychology, to sociology. Yeah.
Let's look at what our audiences have to say. If there's a consensus amongst them, can we have answers to the previous poll, please? I hope everybody got a chance to answer the question. Predika, could we have the answers, please? Hello. A poll. We have a poll vacuum. Predika, shall we move ahead and come back to it, perhaps? Well, it seems like it's not working. So let's move ahead. Maybe we'll look at the poll question later. Mritunjay, please, let's have you share your work and your presentation now.
Yeah, sure. Is it visible?
It says it's yes, it is now visible. Please go to full screen.
Yeah. Yes.
Super. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Srishti, for having me here. I will try to cover a broader perspective on positive design and leave it open for the audience for discussion around what else can contribute or mean as positive design. The facts that I'm going to present here today are based on my past experiences and literature that I've come across during my PhD tenure. Research on positive design realm comes from several areas of discipline, as I already mentioned, majorly from positive psychology, design, and HCI. However, most of these work point towards a broader perspective of well-being. But before we move ahead, let's talk a little about well-being. What is well-being? Some equate well-being to happiness. Some people prefer to say that it's a prolonged state of contentment. Some researchers equate well-being as an absence of depression, and so on and so forth. None of these perspectives are incorrect, but each perspective in it is incomplete in itself. And the resolution to this conflict is dependent on what theoretical approach you want to take. Now, this clip here shown are from different movies by Buster Keaton. He was indeed a genius who differed from Charlie Chaplin's style. He used physical comedy and stunts and a lot of props. For the audience, his acts were like pleasurable mistakes which made them laugh. Seeking pleasure is what one of the critical motivations of humans, and this is what the basic ideology of hedonistic philosophy is. Hedonistic approach emphasizes the point of experiencing positive emotions and avoiding negative ones. On the other hand, eudaimonic philosophy points out that engagement in meaningful activity and pursuing meaningful goals is very important to stay healthy and happy. Now, the modern hedonistic approach has widely studied the subjective well-being, where it refers to as how people experience and evaluate their lives. So, the famous Nobel researcher Daniel Kahneman and his colleagues have proposed that subjective well-being has three components: life satisfaction, the presence of positive mood, and the absence of positive mood. Whereas the self-determination theory has been widely studied in the modern eudaimonic domain, where this theory says autonomy, competence, and relatedness are the key components of motivations, engagement, and well-being. Many scholars have also combined these two approaches together and proposed frameworks like Alipta already mentioned, PERMA framework. The subject of well-being has evolved over the years, and it's not part of a single field. It has been studied from various perspectives and by various disciplines, as you can see in this list. For example, the famous concept of self-actualization by Maslow, to psychological well-being, to flow by Csikszentmihalyi. So these theories shows that this subject matter is gaining a lot of attention among researchers. Also, the issue of well-being has been a political agenda very recently. For example, in 2015, United Nations countries adopted 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and 17 Sustainable Development Goals, where well-being is one of them. We have also Madhya Pradesh Rajya Anand Sansthan coming as a new initiative to promote and measure well-being of the individuals. Design research communities have also started making several special interest groups to extensively work in this domain, like this one, Design Research Society. So SIG is a special interest group. But what does it mean to design for well-being? Let's look at a hypothetical scenario of designing a driverless car. So a hedonic designer will focus on improving those aspects of design from which the user can derive positive emotions. For example, the car can have heated leather seats, or it may include some massage functions in the chair. Eudaimonic designers, on the other hand, might take the self-determination theory approach, where they can design for competence, connectedness, and control. So this car can have a function of relatedness, where it will let the user to connect to its nearby cars. The value-sensitive designers will try to provide value by his design. He may choose maybe security or privacy issues posed by the driverless cars. For example, the GPS routes can be traced or hacked, and designers can overcome these issues through this factor. Biological well-being designer would design for mental and physical well-being. For example, exercise equipments can be given at the back of the seat where the user can exercise while the car is driving by itself. And the regenerative designers would design for things that the car would regenerate. For example, the kinetic energy of the running car could be utilized to store the energy. Of course, these approaches might have different constraints to it, like technological advancements are happening. So one needs to also take care of that. So this was just a hypothetical scenario to give an overview of how a positive designer should approach a problem. Now, before moving ahead, let's look at the challenges posed by the positive design to us. The first problem is epistemological problem. In this issue, how designers are to know which conception or attribute of well-being applies to a particular user or stakeholder, because well-being differs from one person to another. So a lot of research needs to be done to understand the nature of well-being of the users. For example, by conducting ethnographic research, artifact analysis, and so on and so forth. The second problem is the scope problem, where the range of stakeholders and the consequences of well-being will be considered by the design. For example, a good game might be a stress buster for many people, but it may lead to social isolation, poor sleep cycle, and physical pains in your body. So one needs to also consider the scope of the project. The aggregation problem is, since well-being differs from different to different people, how will you aggregately measure the overall well-being of different people, right? And the fourth problem is the specification problem, where how will you transform the well-being variable into a design specification, right? So these are the four challenges faced by. Yeah. So now we'll look at some of the important well-being factors for positive design. Remember, each of these factors are independently studied in various domains, and each of these factors are very huge and vast. Also, these factors are not mutually exclusive. Rather, they have some relationship with each other. These factors are placed into three major categories: intrapersonal, where the factors are experienced within oneself; interpersonal, where it's social; and extrapersonal, where it goes beyond social and personal values. So the first factor is positive emotions. Emotions are a central quality of human beings that influence our behaviors and motivations, right? So thus it is a designer's responsibility to design a product wisely, keeping positive and negative effects, ethics, and well-being. However, emotion research has several schools of thoughts in itself. We have concepts like pleasantness, unpleasantness, arousal, emotion regulation, emotional intelligence, and so on and so forth. So one needs to be aware of these concepts before designing a product. Every designer should make a product that motivates and engages their users. Intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivations are the two broader concepts that have been widely studied in motivation and engagement studies. For example, student might be both intrinsically motivated to study as well as extrinsically motivated towards getting a degree. So, both the motivations are coming into play. Self-awareness is being aware of different thoughts, behaviors, and feelings. Cognitive behavioral therapies are now used to increase the self-awareness and mindfulness of oneself by focusing their attention on emotions. For example, meditation and other yoga tools are recently used to make people more self-aware and be more mindful. Resilience is about overcoming distractions and difficulties. Maybe we can have products for a mental state such as procrastination or a mental block that we quite often encounter. Empathy and gratitude has been widely studied in the domain of HCI, where user personas are created and several insights are drawn by empathizing with the users, right? So here we have concepts like cognitive empathy, where one tries to understand feelings of others. And the other one is emotional empathy, where one needs to respond to the basic response to the situation, right? Compassion is influenced by judgment or fairness of justice. It has a bigger purpose. Design can be designed to empower coping abilities. Like, for example, coping with the stress of natural disaster or some extremely bad situations. Altruism and selflessness needs to help others or to do something beneficial for the society or somebody. One needs to identify the most effective ways to help others. Like one design product that can help people to age happily and peacefully. Now, after these factors of well-being, let's look at the 8 well-being needs proposed by Mark Hasensahl. So they found, so these are basically the 8 well-being needs, as you can see on the screen. It has all the descriptions to it. What they have found, what Mark Hasensahl and their colleagues have found in the research is that that these factors differs. Like for example, stimulation and relatedness were directly associated with positive effects, whereas competence was accompanied by a feeling of strength and pride. Now we'll look at some of the products for inspiration for the budding designers and approach towards well-being. This is a product that is intended, sorry.
But just as a small prompt, you have maybe 4 minutes left.
Yeah, I will just quickly wind up. So this is a product that is intended to induce positive emotions and engagement with the product. So the user whispers a message that gets delivered to your loved ones on the other side. This is an interesting product because it delivers a positive experience not only to you, but also your loved ones, right? The previous product was based on providing a pleasurable experience to the users. However, this ongoing project of mine is inclined towards understanding the dynamics of emotions during the design process, where I'm trying to find the markers of emotion for a design process. So we have captured facial action units here, as Alipta mentioned in his presentation, and each of these action units, corresponds to a particular emotion. So we have conducted this experiment with 110 samples, and the research is presently in the analysis phase. This science bus project of ours focuses on the multiple factors of well-being. This bus goes into the remote areas of Uttar Pradesh and helps children learn science. It has a LED TV and a projector screen to display NPTELs and Swayam MOOCs videos to help the students. Along with that, we have small lab with apparatus installed. And this bus is accompanied by 2 dedicated staff who manage and help facilitate the whole program. This is again another interesting project which tries to change the perception of the user in the food category by changing your food eating habit. Here the designers have used a heavy material to create a false sense of density. So basically they're deceiving you by the form. And the round curved form and the symmetry make it harder to judge the volume accurately. So by these strategies, they're basically trying to reduce a portion sizes. IDEO's Palo Alto design, this is a design for aging, where they try to capture thoughts and wisdom throughout the years. The user scribbles thoughts and memories down the paper, roll it up, and stick it in the tube. This is a way to tangibly represent the aging process. Azo is an app that helps to age people, that helps aged people commute. They either accompany a user through bike or help them take a walk by walking along with them. This product is based on Soma Aesthetics philosophy, which says designing for the body. So this Soma mat heats up at different places by focusing on different body parts, right? And the Feldenkrais method is another method like yoga, where the instructor provides you some instructions and you listen to it. So when you try to focus on a specific part of your body, that part of the yoga mat gets heated up. This is one of my PhD colleagues' work at IIT Kanpur, who is presently India's Forbes 30 under 30 in inventors. He designed a simple product. This deskit invention is a school bag convertible into a study table, and that too under rupees 400. So this project has got a lot of funding nationally and internationally. So this project is basically emphasizing the physicalness, where it is trying to correct the posture of the children, right? And it is very affordable. The last project, this LAUGH research project has developed a series of innovative, playful devices that amuse, distract, and brings joys to the elderly people, right? So this doll speaks and gives hugs to people, providing them a sense of belonging. So concluding my presentation, based on what we have discussed till now, here are my thoughts. Designers should explore and understand the difference between traditional design method and the positive design, right? We should try to at least see what is the difference in terms of the process. There are a lot of sub-processes involved in the design process. We should also include positive design framework in the existing design process, or we should come up with a new positive design process or framework in itself. Some longitudinal studies should also be done to measure the long-term impact of the positive designed products. And lastly, we should either take a preventive approach to design a positive product, where we should try to fix the existing problems in the products, or take a dedicated approach where we start making intentional positive products, keeping several factors and needs in mind. So that's it. Thank you, Srishti.
Thank you, Mritunjay. That was brilliant. It's really nice to see some of the interesting elements that you've pointed out. And for me, I think one thing that I guess a lot of designers struggle with is, and bear in mind that most of us are not working for projects that are going to be only research based, or in a museum, or only on an exhibit. We are often working with clients and commissions, which is going to be for an anonymous user. We'll never get to meet them.
Yeah.
So you mentioned aggregation and specification. So how do you design with connectedness for this anonymous user and, well, users. How do you design for connectedness for these 1,200 million users, maybe, especially if you're in UX UI? How do you design for connectedness for somebody you don't know?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think, again, connectedness will vary from person to person, and this relationship will also vary. So for that, what scientists usually do is they use statistical modelings to find means and variations across populations. So what? So if I'll ask you one question, ki is jar mein kitne sare कंचे हैं? So somebody will have a different response. Somebody will give me another response. But if I'll average it out, मतलब अगर मैं average निकालूंगा, so the average will come मतलब nearby to the marbles which is present in the bowl. So my answer to that will be, first we should identify the variables which accounts for connectedness across multiple populations, and then test it statistically across these populations. What is the variation? Is there a common mean? If and if there is, then what are those factors which lies across the mean of the population? And then we can consider those variables and design the product for them. So this would be my response. Yeah.
You know, it's when I hear you say that, there's a recent conversation I was having with somebody, and what they were saying was that more and more fields are becoming sciences. It's no longer that we are simply designing from an instinct, or we're designing purely from an aesthetic sensorial experience, but we're actually really measuring and mapping and codifying, in some sense, design behavior, user behavior, and trying to channel that into work. And that's very, very interesting as well. And you know, I very challenging for most of us who are not trained as scientists.
Yeah, I know. Even it took time for me to catch up statistical analysis, but eventually you will learn. Likely, like Alipta mentioned about PANAS schedule, right? PANAS, positive and negative affect schedule. So what I did in one of my research is I gave those questionnaires to multiple participants, and on the basis of that, those ratings, I computed the means and I compared between one group and the other group, and I found which group felt better or which group felt negative. So this will give you a clear idea. So statistical modeling is very important when you're going to design a product.
It should become part of relevant part of design education.
Yeah.
Data mapping is analytics is also a big field.
Yes.
Alipta, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think I would agree to what Mritunjay said, but my experience would say that we hardly get into statistical models, right? I mean, especially if you're a qualitative researcher, you'd probably focus on the behavioral side of things. But then I would say I personally like statistics a lot, because that is one of my favorite subject also. But whenever I try to talk to a designer or a researcher and asking that, okay, have you done any statistical analysis of this particular thing? Then they say no. But the requirement also might vary. Most of the times we might only need behavioral data from the users, but sometimes I think we also have to rely on statistics. So that would be my response to this.
So you know what, you talked about experience again, because I mean, obviously, Mritunjay, you and Alipta are, I guess, in some sense at a different end of the spectrum, because your work is, Mritunjay, focused very, very much on figuring that codified knowledge at the moment as part of your PhD. And Alipta, you're working for an organization that has to sort of get the products out at the end of the day. Interesting jump, I would say, from that to there. And I guess we'll have to wait and see how much of that gets captured and continues to be applied. The reason why I brought up experiences was that I'm really, really curious about our previous poll. And just for everybody's benefit, let me repeat the question. We were asking all the audiences here, which statement about design is closest to reality in their experience? Can we have the answers, Prerika? I hope this time we can see the answers. There we go. So 50% say that it is an empathetic profession, and so positive impact and well-being is fundamental. So, like I said, this is an aligned audience. For me, what is curious, and maybe a question back to the audience, is how do you ensure that each time you design, you are having a positive impact? And it has become fundamental to your design process. 29% say that it's a problem solving regardless of the positive impact or well-being. So you tell us what we need to do, we'll get it done. And I guess problem solving and positive impact are inadvertent side symptoms, I guess, of a good design. And thankfully, only 4% think that it often lacks positive design and well-being attributes. So we are a pretty positive audience, it seems. And with that, we'd like to start inviting our audiences for questions. I have the first question. And this is for both speakers. It's from Ruchi. Hi, Ruchi. Thank you for your question. Her question is, happiness is personal and an intangible emotion. How does one achieve such an emotion on a generic level, design level? Anybody could answer.
Yeah, I can really take up.
Yeah.
So I agree, happiness definitely is a personal thing. And definitely it's an intangible emotion as well. But the thing is, when you're designing products, we have to also focus on a specific target group. I mean, we cannot design products specific for you. And that's why these days products has features like where you can actually personify or make your products work personally for you, right? Let's say if you talk about Alexa will probably understand you better, and she can proposes you what song you'd be liking at that point of time. So there are a lot of algorithm which comes in these days to understand you better, like that. So AI has already, been helping us to get to that level of details in regards to product experience, right? Now, there's also one thing I want to highlight here. In economy, there's a pricing theory which says that products which are highly priced, those products are good. That's actually a fact. And then so how would I relate to this is, so happiness again is personal. So you like that product because you probably feel that product is highly priced, right? And then you buy that product. And so when it comes to design, I think we have to also focus on the business side of things, right? And we have to probably understand our market, understand our business strategies, and we really cannot define products for one particular user, but a group of users. Probably in that group, and then the next thing which can probably connect the dots is to how to grow your market, right? And then how to grow your audience, how to grow your products. So I think that is probably all about I don't know whether it answers your question, but those are my thoughts.
I agree with you, Alipta. I think focusing on a particular specific group of user will quietly solve this issue at this point of time. Correct. Although this the field of happiness and well-being is in its infancy, so we need to wait, and we need to really wait long for the proper frameworks to come in.
Absolutely.
So that we can follow those frameworks and properly design the products. Yeah.
I think you may have preempted the next answer, but let's give it another stab. So Shrutin, hi Shrutin, thank you for your question. Again, this is a question for both speakers. She asks, I don't know if it's I don't know if it's a lady or a gentleman. As we get a better understanding of user behavior, businesses are sometimes tempted to create solutions that might help emote good feels in a user. So businesses are tempted to create solutions that might make users feel good in the short term, but might not be best for them in the long term. So any thoughts on how we could bring more responsibility into creating of solutions? I think that's a great question.
Yeah, it's a very great question. I think what he's talking about is nudging, where you are trying to persuade user with the help of design. So instead of nudging for business, you should try to nudge for connections, not for competitions with the other products. This is my first take. And help people to participate in an activity that is intrinsically motivated. Do not design products just for the business sake where it is making profits. Of course, business is an important factor in the longer run, but we'll have to look at all these factors also and delight the customers with peacefulness and excitement, right? Yeah, sorry.
No, I guess she's also trying to understand that businesses are business for profit, right? So
Yeah.
if you're a designer that's working for an organization who may not have the first imperative as the connectedness or emotional well-being of the user, at least in the long run. So how do we make businesses more responsible? Alipta, you've been working with
so I think
commercial organization.
yes.
Thoughts on this?
So I think this probably brings us to the topic of responsible design, right? I am a responsible designer, let's say, and that probably would point me back again to making design inclusive or universal. Because a lot of things these days, probably I've seen this in the recent past, we have been started to consider accessibility as an important consideration into our designs, right? Earlier it was not there. In spite of having laws, mandates from ADA and different accessibility laws, so we have been totally ignoring this piece altogether. But now I think the trend is shifting a bit, and that's why you as a designer, you should feel responsible towards your user, right? It has to be inclusive in nature, so that you kind of uh, so your users who are accessible in nature or who have some kind of disability, they can probably use your product in a certain way, right? So I think that really answers to an extent, I guess. But yes, this is an interesting point, interesting question, I would say.
Thanks, Alipto. The next question comes from Edward Benegal. Hi, Ed. Long time. He's a friend. Both speakers, this is for anybody. Following the question about metrics and measurements of well-being, and I think that was something that Mritunjay you were talking about.
Yeah.
He's asking for a design perspective from any of the speakers regarding methods and communication of statistical measurements of national well-being as a metric to complement aims in GDP growth in governance and policy making. What might the role of design be within this? Would you like me to sort of maybe repeat the question, because there are many questions in this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
so, yeah, let me break it down. What are the methods of communication of statistical measurements in national well-being? That's one. Second, as a metric in GDP growth and governance, how can designers contribute to this? Ed, I hope I got your question right.
Yeah. So right now, what Madhya Pradesh government and Bhutan has done is they have come up with a gross domestic happiness index, where they're not only collecting data from the point of positive emotions, they are collecting data from multiple factors or variables like physical well-being, mental well-being. So there is a statistical measurement tool, CES, which is, I think, anti-depressant questionnaire. So you will provide these questionnaires to different people. They will tick on it, and on the basis of that data, you will come up with a index that, okay, this much of people were happy, this much of people were not happy in a particular population, right? So this is what government is trying to do. I'm not really very sure about the second question, where how will you map the design into the government policy thing. I will have to think about it. It's a very critical question, I think. Alipta, I think you should answer this.
Take a stab at it.
Yeah, it's a tough one basically, but as you said rightly, Mritunjay, so I think earlier in 70s, I get Bhutan King Jigme actually introduced his gross domestic happiness concept, and he said instead of gross domestic product, gross domestic happiness should be the guiding factor for our GDP. So that was a good concept. I think I would second you, but I think we as a designer, we are still growing in our own space, and we are yet to reach to that level where we are started to consult governments into the design, into any kind of design process. I understand there are a lot of government portals which comes up these days. Really, some designers must be doing those portals in a quick and rapid manner. But there are a lot of usability flaws also in them. I normally check, but I think to get to that level, it will take more time, I would say. I mean, there's a lot of maturity has to happen within the designers community, and also government also should understand.
In India, I think we have a long way to go.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Um, um, Although there is a national design policy and there is all of that, but they're still pretty much paper documents
yeah.
in some sense.
Absolutely, yes.
So let's move to the next question. Siddharth asks, how can we involve positive design in Indian indigenous design and craft?
Okay. I have a thought on this. So, what? So I think we should design for symbolic meaning. Most of the indigenous crafts have a symbolic meaning attached to it. So it has been also found in the research that if a product has a symbolic meaning attached to it, that product is more positive. That gives you positive experience. So in that case, like I worked in the handicraft and handloom sector also. So where we used to work with dhokra craft and other crafts of Jharkhand. So those crafts in itself has many values attached to it, and I think we should try to enhance those attributes of those products so that it can ultimately be more symbolic in nature. So this is what my take on this.
Okay, since we're to our time limit, so
just one point I can probably add here is when it comes to craft, and you also mentioned about symbols, Mritunjay.
Yeah.
I think if you look at logo designs, how logo is designed these days, logo also has the positive side of things. I mean, if you look at FedEx logo, you will find there's an arrow symbolizes that you're moving forward. So that's positivity in your design. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm trying to see, maybe I'll pick one last question. There is one from Herbina Kaur. Hi, Herbina. Again, this is to both the speakers. We've been relating positive design and well-being quite a lot with technology. Do you think in the future, technology will purely take over and traditional aspects of design will go off? Does that also mean aesthetics will completely turn into contemporary design? Yeah, anybody? I think the first question is, do you think in the future, technology will take over traditional aspects of design?
I don't think so, that technology will take over all the traditional aspects of design. Yes, in a way it will, like how handloom sector has been converted more into the powerloom sector, where technology has totally transformed that business values. But again, traditional crafts will always exist. I don't think technology is going to take that away, because again, coming back to the symbolic meanings and values, we have a lot of symbolic meaning and value attached to different products at our home, products given as a gifts by our relatives. So those meanings and values will not go off. Technology will obviously enhance and augment our capabilities in a way. So this is what I think.
Once upon a time, I think when Kindle was new and the phone was new, everybody thought people would stop reading books.
Yeah, but
books are still here, and we still enjoy reading them.
Yeah,
technology is just an enabler. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a medium. We have one last question. So this is from Ed. It's a great question. Do either of the speakers see a connection between positive design practices and positive design outcomes? It would be great to hear any examples from the speakers where positive or playful ideation exercises have perhaps created more positive designs.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I can talk about gamification. These days, we are using a lot of gamification to engage our end users, and we have been trying a lot. Probably, I would not say that gamification actually fits in the healthcare industry, but yes, why not? We can probably think about it. But in other sectors, let's see if we talk about finance or any other popular sectors, gamification is one area where we are trying to engage our users, and when you engage users, then that positivity comes out into your design. So that's my take on this. Mritunjay, over to you.
Yeah, actually, I also did an experiment at IIT Kanpur where we gave few playful cards and activities to few people, and we found that these factors helps improve creative pursuit of the individuals. So if creativity pursuit is increasing, obviously it means you're leading towards a positive side, because creativity has a direct relationship with positivity. So in a way, obviously playful activities and things would help you to become more positive. But again, I haven't come across any research paper right now where it says that, okay, playful activities and other things will lead you to positive design. Of course, this is a matter of research in the future. So this is a good question to take this research forward and do some research. Yeah.
I believe that if you are as a designer, yeah, you naturally have to be in an optimistic, in a positive frame of mind to be able to create and imagine anything new. So I assume that that's a starting point. And if you stay positive despite the highs and lows of the ideation process, as we all know, um, you have to keep being optimistic, I think, and
Yeah.
there's no tangible way, I guess, to stay optimistic except stay optimistic, right? So we have I have been told that maybe I have one time for one more question. We have Alok Basin. He's asked a lot of questions, so we'll take one from him. In the view of design for healthcare facilities, in the current trend, especially in the private sector in India, we have huge spaces in the public domain, like public spaces, sorry, reception areas, waiting lobbies, etc. For a user group that is undergoing stress and anxiety for their family who's being treated, large spaces can be very intimidating. How can this be improved? How can positive design contribute to this? So it's a space design question in some sense.
Yeah.
I think you should look at regenerative design framework, which is coming into play in majorly in the field of architecture and urban planning. So regenerative design focuses on not only on the factor of sustainability, but it goes beyond that, where you design the spaces where it generates happiness and well-being. So I'm not from architecture background, so I'm not very much into that area, but I came across this concept few days back. So I think you should go and read about regenerative design.
Maybe, Mritunjay, while we take the next poll question, you can type in that link for our
Okay.
users here if you can find it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, send it to us, and we'll try and forward it to the question. Anything, Alipta, you'd like to add?
No, I think, yeah, so that's again coming back to spatial design. Now, let's say I can probably pick up an example. Let's say you are in a hospital environment and you are probably with one patient who is having cancer, right? Now, how to make that patient or his family feel positive about the situation? Now, really, as a designer, what I can really think of doing is probably put up data, like, okay, this hospital has treated 100 plus cancer patients in the past, and they have all been cured. Something on those lines, so that you can really make build that trust with that clinical facility or wherever you are in. But that's a quick thought. Maybe there are a lot of other ways to handle this kind of situations. But yes, I think this requires a lot of research and understanding of things.
I think we've got a lot of interesting ideas on the table of how to go about designing positively, or at least positive design in your work. So I would like to take our last poll question to the audience and find out what they have gained, or how would they approach their work differently now. Prerika, request you to please put on the last poll question. Hi, Prerika.
Srishti, it's already live. People are polling as well.
Okay, it didn't come up on the screen, sorry. So I couldn't see what was happening. So let's just give everybody a minute to go through the question.
Srishti, would you like me to read it out? If you can't see it, I can read
Yes,
it out.
I was looking for that. Yeah, I see it now. I'll take it. Thank you, Aditi. So the question is, what will be your primary consideration when you think about any space, product, or service experience? Will it be happiness, pleasure, usability, reliability, or functionality? Which will be your primary consideration? Okay. For you, Mritunjay, what is your primary consideration? If you had to pick one thing, I know it's a tough call, but if you had to pick one thing.
Again, it will depend on the research question that I have in hand. But again, if I will have to pick a one, I will go with pleasure.
Alipta, what's your call?
No, I think I would probably go for usability, because usability will further lead to happiness or pleasure.
Ah, clever. Maybe given away the prime answer. Predika, can we have the responses, please? Usability. I think they just made the choice after you said this, Alipta. Our audience just switched over. So 20% say happiness. Nobody said pleasure.
Says pleasure.
I'm not sure if they understand pleasure in the way you understand pleasure.
Yeah.
Usability is 47%, reliability 13%, and functionality 20%. So that's amazing. Usability, it is. We still are designers who are functional and functioning for positivity, I hope. And with that, we come to the end of today's conversation. But before we say goodbye, I want to come back to both our speakers and ask if there's one key takeaway that you would like our audiences to have, or what takeaway you leave them with. What would it be around positive design?
Okay, I think you as a designer have to be positive, because your positivity would reflect back in your work. So that's my take.
My take would be, don't only design for positivity, because negative emotions are also part of your life. So consider both the emotions, because both the emotions happens parallelly. It has been found in most of the research. So consider both the emotions, but of course, your ultimate intention should be to increase the positive and well-being.
Yeah, that's a great segue to a quote that I found of Martin Seligman, where he says, by the way, for people who don't know, Martin Seligman is an American psychologist, and he's commonly known as the founder of positive psychology. And he says, curing the negative does not produce the positives. So I think that's very apt to what you've said. And with that, thank you, both of you, Mritunjay and Alipta. It was a pleasure having with you, and it was amazing to have this conversation and really deconstruct positive design. And a big thank you to our audiences who are joining back on our season 2 first episode. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your questions. Please keep tuning in. We will come back in about 2 weeks' time. As you know, 15 days is the deadline for the next Design Lounge episode. In the meantime, you can check out all our updates on our Instagram page at designlounge_PearlAcademy. Thank you both. I would like also to thank a few people in the team. Can we have the last slide, please? Yaman or Predika? We
Yes,
have
sir.
a bunch of faculty and students to thank. And I have all the names out there. There we go. So this is our Instagram page, design. Oops, it's gone. It's back. Stay positive. Okay. Design Lounge _PearlAcademy, for PA for short. And the Design Lounge team, we have Aditi, we have Pooja, Yaman, Anupam, Tushar, and Priyanka, who are the faculty team. And the student support is Harvina, Chavi, Pragya, and Diksha. Thank you, all of you, and thank you very much again to the speakers. Stay positive, be positive, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.